All right, hi everybody. Welcome to the May 20th meeting of the Newmarket Budget Committee. I'll call the meeting to order and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody. I think the first order of business here is just to approve the minutes from the April 29th meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to to approve those minutes.
Make a motion we approve the minutes as written.
Thanks, Gary.
Second.
Thanks, Zach. Any discussion? Yeah, it looked really good to me, so thanks, Patricia. And with that, let's close discussion and so no. yeah. So I'm going to make sure we try and say the names as much as we can when people make comments. So that's great. All right. So I think does that mean minutes approved? Let's move on to the second order. Oh, sorry. All in favor of approving the minutes from April 29, 2019, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have two abstentions. Roger Caddy and Robert Ortons both let me know that they weren't going to be here. So motion passes 9-0. Yeah. Great. I did not hear that the budget books were in or available at this point, so we'll continue to check on those, and as soon as they come in, I'll try to get word out to folks when I do hear that they have arrived, and make arrangements to either get them to the next meeting that we have, or I would imagine that folks can come and pick them up here at Town Hall once they are available. So stay tuned on that. We just haven't heard. Sort of a follow-up from the last meeting too was this next bullet point, which I wanted just to sort of continue on with this, which was a discussion of setting up the introductory meetings with the town department heads. So it looks like there was definitely some interest in seeing that. In fact, there was some question about would it be appropriate, or is there a way that we might be able to bring more than one person to those meetings? And I checked in with Steve. I think it's fine to do that. The sort of request there is that we make it as easy as possible on the department heads to go ahead and schedule those meetings. So if you're going to do it as single as a one-on-one meeting, probably the easiest way to do that is to reach out to the department head directly. Their phone numbers are listed on the website for each of the departments under the department tab on the Town of Newmarket website. And also the emails, the email structure for town, I think, is first initial and then last name at Town of Newmarket. So you can reach out to them directly in either one of those methods and set up a time that works best for you and the department head you're working with. If you are planning to get together as a group, I think the request was it would be best if one person sort of take the lead on that and try to work with everybody else to find a convenient time and date, and then repeat that process. Reach out to the department head. If you can come to the department head with a couple of times and dates that would work, that would make it most easy for scheduling, and then would allow just that meeting to take place. The one caution I want to, this is sort of a way to meet and greet. I wouldn't intend or sort of encourage anybody to discuss town business while there, or treat it like some kind of an audit or a survey of the folks that are working there. But it certainly is something that Steve Fournier, the town administrator, encouraged. I thought was a great idea, just in terms of being able to do our job here in the committee better and meeting the folks that do the job for Newmarket Town. So thanks everybody involved in that process. And if there are any questions, or if you guys find that it's not as easy as I've described here tonight, reach out, and I'll work with Steve to see if there's any problems. I don't anticipate any. But go ahead. I think green light to go and schedule meetings and meet with the department heads. Any questions? Sure, Dan.
Just one observation. Just make sure that there aren't 6 or more of us, so we don't accidentally create a meeting.
Yes. And avoid town business as much as possible when you're in the place of that. But we had that instruction last meeting, so if there are questions about that, we can cover those. But just follow those instructions that we got from everybody last time, and we should be good.
Maybe if I could add to that, and I think lead to the next bullet. Part of the CIP process is listening to each department head and going through their, kind of their 10-year plan. And then if I remember correctly, last year, the first meeting I had during the CIP was kind of a little tour of all the, what the town owned.
Great.
A little 10-minute drive.
Yeah.
Through each station.
Found it valuable?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and that is actually a great segue into the next order of business that we have here, which is, so the Capital Improvement Plan Committee is a group at large, is a group here in Newmarket, and from the Budget Committee, they've asked that we elect one member and one alternate member into that. So just in terms of our meeting here tonight, I think this will be sort of the sort of meat of what we get done tonight. Dan, in a second here, I'll throw it over to you so that folks can kind of understand a little bit more about CIP if you haven't had a chance to sort of connect. I know there's been some interest, folks have asked questions about it. And then we will reach out for nominations for both the representative and the alternate. We'll do a discussion and finally we'll vote to elect our member there. Both Dan and Trevor, I think, have served to this point as members of the CIP. So, Trevor, if you have any other comments to make about what it was like.
I would just highly recommend it. You get to kind of see what happens specifically.
Yeah.
Here we just kind of broadly talk about the budget, whereas we talk about actual plans and projects, things that may or may not happen. And then towards the end of that process, we kind of rank on what the town needs and what it may or may not need, and then what's kind of extraneous.
Great. What was your experience like, Dan?
I mean, I guess just to throw out, why does it exist? It's probably a good place to start. Statutorily, it's something we as a town must do if we're going to collect impact fees from developers who are doing residential or commercial projects in town. It is a little amorphous what the committee is actually supposed to produce. The way we've done it in the past is the committee ends up producing a document that is essentially a ranked recommendation to the council and to the school board as well, separately to the school board, of what the committee believes are the highest priority capital projects that the town should seriously consider funding, or the school board should seriously consider funding. What's a capital project? In general, there is a minimum threshold. I believe it's $10,000. Anything below that is really, beneath the scope of what CIP is there to do. And typically, the way it's gone in the past is there's a bit of a dog and pony show where all the town department heads come in and say, here are the big ticket items that I would like to do, my department would like to do over the next 10 years. And it is fascinating to hear some of these things and to get a perspective from the people who actually manage this day to day on not just what the opportunities are, but also, frankly, what some of the risks are that we wear as a town, because we have certain resources that we can spend. We don't, we can't do everything that everyone would like to do, and that creates, as I said, risks and opportunities. So at the end of the process, though, after collecting all of this information, hearing from the department heads, the committee will just sit down and go through these projects one by one. I'm not going to remember the ranking system, but there's something that's must have, should have. There's a ranking system for it, and that goes into a report that goes to the town administrator and the town council. It, I guess I would say, informs both, what the town administrator puts into the budget, and informs to some extent the council's discussion around the town administrator's budget proposal. I think there's been, over the past few years that I've watched, something of a convergence where, on the one hand, the CIP process has become a little bit less of a Christmas list and a little more focused. And on the other hand, the council, at least last year in particular, paid a lot more attention to what came out of that when they were looking at the budgeting priorities. I'm remembering correctly, there were some things that were added to the administrator's budget. Is it roads or sidewalks? Help me out.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I think
I'm trying to think
Could've
of
been
lights,
sidewalks.
roads, or sidewalks, one of the three.
Yeah, it was one or the other, but in that sense, it's relative to 3 and 4 years ago when I did CIP. I think the process has tightened up and improved quite a bit. It's definitely more valuable now than it was then. So I'd encourage anyone who's interested to consider getting involved.
Mickey, if I may follow.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, when I first came to the budget committee last year, it was also my first year on the town council. It was my understanding from what I heard from some folks that it seemed like a lot of really great work got done in CIP, but then kind of got lost on its way over to the town council. I'd say, especially last year, Steve worked very hard with the department heads and the recommendations from the CIP to really help tailor his budget, especially seeing, are there things that we really have to wait 3, 4, 5 years to get the funding for, or is there a way that we can be smarter and better about it? Like the line cars that the police department have, instead of making it a capital plan, we realize we're buying a new car every year. Let's pull that out, put that money elsewhere, and really make that a good line item. So, at least for me on the town council side, it really, the work that the CIP does really beneficially impacts the budget and makes for smarter spending choices for the next fiscal year. So if you're curious or you're interested, I 1000% recommend that you step up and you go for it. I'm kind of jealous I can't be on it.
Thanks, everybody. I think the perspective is helpful. Are there any questions?
Okay, so just from my understanding of how this all works, so the capital improvement program, a group get together, they go through all the, kind of like a wish list, and they prioritize them, and that makes it, the town council approves what goes into the reserve funding of the capital reserve funds? Is that how it works? How does it get to the budget, I guess?
So you are correct that the town council would set the budget that we would then review. The CIP is, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they have just one fund that they would support. If there was a need within town, they could use any of the general fund or any funds that are available to them in order to fund that initiative. So they're not just pointed at one spot in the budget. They have the ability to set up or recommend to the council that monies be put aside in a certain direction, a certain way.
Yeah, there is it's a bit of a structural disconnect, I think, because what the CIP committee ultimately ends up recommending, in a sense, is a number. This is how much capital improvement money we think should be tucked away over the next 5 years, and these are the projects that we think are important, and ranking them all. In practice, that isn't really how the budgeting exercise goes, because number one, we already have a certain amount of money in capital reserve funds that is there to be spent. B, just because we decide something is necessary doesn't mean that's the funding mechanism we're going to use to do it. So that was the couple of years that I did it. One of the hardest things for me to wrap my head around was that there is the effect of what you recommend doesn't manifest itself in the exact same form as the document you present, and that's partly because the document you present is kind of a blunt instrument. You can only really recommend that we set money aside. You can't, I guess the right way to put it, you can recommend funding these things, but you can't say, it's more of a spending plan than a funding plan.
So in other words, they don't always become a specific line item in the capital reserve fund.
Exactly.
And so, and then warrant articles, do warrant articles come out of the capital improvement thing, or is that a whole separate? I apologize.
That's the council. If something was big enough and important enough, and we thought it was a good deal for the town to take a project and bond it, which, it would end up becoming a warrant article. I think all bonds have to go to warrant, right?
Okay, yeah. I think for the school board, it would have to go in the warrant if it was just going to be a capital fund deposit. But for the town, it's not. I think for the town, it's in the budget what's going to go in the capital fund. But I may be wrong on that.
No, I think that's correct. The rules are somewhat different for the school district than for the town, just because of the legal structures of each of them.
But I think to close the loop, the CIP wouldn't say the school board should make a warrant for this amount. That would be a school board decision. The plan would say we want to fund this project or these expenditures over this period of time, and then the school board or the town council would decide how to execute that.
Right, yeah, I know I'm not wording this the best, but CIP is a spending plan, and then it's up to the administrator, the school superintendent, the town council, and the school board to take that and turn it into a funding plan.
It gives us a chance to plan ahead. Like the school board, we know what we're going to need coming down the road. And this way we can go to CIP and say, this is what we see we're going to be needing for improving our building. And then they look at it and they say, yes, you can have the money, or no, you can't. You have to put it on a warrant article. So it works out for us. It's really been a smooth process the last 2 years.
I guess, and there is one other benefit that, in some sense, if you used to go to the deliberative session 3, 4, 5 years ago, was really the elephant in the back of the room, is it actually, if people pay any attention to it whatsoever, it gives them an idea to start thinking about these things a few years in advance. So if done correctly, it should eliminate a lot of the oh crap moments where, oh crap, we need to go spend $100,000 on.
Right, the little fires don't have to be big fires anymore. We now know we have new boilers. We don't have to worry about that, but we have other things that need to be improved on. So we can say, CIP, we're going to need this in 3 years. We're looking at air conditioning. Is that something you can help us with? Something like that. Anything that improves our building.
It was very educational to me to listen to, particularly Rick and Greg from the water department say, this piece of equipment has an expected remaining life of 4 years. This has an expected remaining life of 10 years. And when you start to think about things that way, it just, again, it keeps it
That should be in the capital reserve.
And in the plan as well.
Yeah, so if something was expected to be end of life in 6 years, the plan might, say how much that would be, and it could be that every year for 6 years some amount is put in a fund. It wouldn't have to necessarily be wait 6 years and put it all in a fund or take it all out of the fund. Like, they can actually execute based on the plan. And maybe if it came end of life early, they might have to change, or if it seemed like we've had some reports from CIP where some things seemed like they could last longer or they could repair them and not have to replace them. So the plan year to year might change, even for items that appeared in the past. Might be a little different in the plan this year.
Just where I was coming from, I always thought that the capital reserve fund and the capital improvement plan were one and the same thing. And when I was reading the minutes, it sounded like, they're really two different things, and that's why I got to reach out to you.
Yeah. And I said, let's talk to the experts here. So thanks, guys. That was a great discussion. I really appreciate it. Well, let's move into, now that everybody knows what they're getting into, let's see what kind of interest we have in terms of representative and then alternate for the CIP. Has anybody thought about it and want to nominate either yourself or someone that you know as our? We'll start with the representative, and then we'll move to the alternate. So I'll entertain a motion or a nomination for the Budget Committee's representative to CIP.
I was going to nominate myself, Christian Matthews.
Thanks, Christian.
I'll second.
Thanks, Jeff, for the second.
John, I'll take a second.
If no other discussion, or I don't think there's any necessary, then let's move. Sorry, did you have a question, Elizabeth? Oh, great. Yeah, thanks again. Let's move to a vote.
Do you want me to say anything?
Please,
Yeah.
please, let us know a little bit about yourself and your excitement for the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hey everyone. I don't think I've shook hands with everyone yet. So in my day job outside of this, I'm the GIS transportation analyst for Rockingham Planning Commission. So basically, the majority of my job is doing long-range transportation planning, looking at 20-year plans. That's the question I had last time, was talking with Steve about a 10-year lifespan. So my whole job is dedicated to analysis, specifically GIS, on transportation projects in the region. So I kind of have the mindset of always looking down the road. So when I heard about the CIP, I jumped on the website, looked at the plan, looked at all the documents, found it really interesting. So I figured that with the experience I have with transportation, I thought it would transition really well. So I'll do my best, and I hope that you all choose me.
All right, all in favor of Christian Matthews becoming the Budget Committee representative to the CIP, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Not seeing any. Congratulations, Christian. Passed 9-0.
Careful what doors for.
One last piece of business then. Let's just sort of shore up and make sure we have an alternate in the case that, Christian, you have a conflict with one of their meetings or activities. Can I have a nomination for an alternate to the CIP?
I'd like to nominate myself.
Great.
I'll second that.
Joe, thank you for nominating, and Dan, thank you very much for the second. We'll move right into a vote unless you'd like to say something yourself.
What does the alternate do? Now that I volunteered.
So one of the, guys, keep me honest here on this, but if Christian was unavailable to make a meeting or participate in that process, we would look to you to sort of fill in, and you guys would coordinate who attends. Periodically, we'll check in and see how the CIP is going, and you'll help us sort of understand what the planning is at one of these meetings and just report back to the committee as it goes. So you two should be interchangeable with Christian as the lead. So we have a nomination for, and Joe, correct me if I have butchered your last name, Lamatina, as the alternate representative to the CIP. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Joe. Thanks very much, you guys. Appreciate it. The last order of business I'm going to move down to is just a review of upcoming meetings. So we will not meet in June. We will not meet in July. Our next meeting is targeted for August 26th down here in the town auditorium at 7 p.m. And our plan is, if it permits, as the administrator and school board permit or have the information ready, we'd like to review some of the year-end numbers. I'll reach out to those two parties and see if they can't prepare that for us as best they can. And then we'll meet again September 23. So we may not see a lot of action from the Budget Committee until late August. I'll send out an agenda before that meeting, and just let me know if you guys have any conflicts, and I'll keep tabs, and we can go from there. Any questions or thoughts on meeting schedules? Yeah, Zach.
Yeah, what do I do with all my free time now?
You can contact former member Blue Foster and talk about fishing. I think he has some pointers for what to do. So, if not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Zach. Can I have a second? Thank you, Trevor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.